And here we are on the Get Foxy show once again. And today we have Olivia Niedbala, licensed acupuncturist, here with us today. Olivia, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, Terry. I am so pleasured and honored to be on this podcast among all of the wonderful people you've had on so far. I can't wait to see what we'll uncover today.
Well, you are someone who I really felt deserved to be on this show. Just to give a little background, I came across your mission video on YouTube from the folks over at Botanical Biohacking. They found your video, they shared it, and I went, oh my gosh, this gal is so on top of her game. And you basically expressed this story of how you went from being very overweight and being diagnosed with metabolic syndrome and depression, and your journey through traditional Chinese medicine transformed your life. And now you're here to transform the lives of others. Have I got that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely true. I got into acupuncture school almost right out of college. I was studying at the University of Miami for psychology, and I had this wonderful psychobiology class that introduced me to the mind-body connection. And something within me just clicked that the mind and the body were one entity. And in order to treat the mind, you had to treat the body. So I took a big leap. I went to acupuncture school. I learned the philosophies, traditions of Chinese medicine and the modern science that proves how it works. I implemented all of these techniques into my life. And slowly but surely, I was not perfect. Over 4 years, I lost about 80 pounds and reversed PCOS, metabolic syndrome, and clinical depression. And I'm really passionate about sharing what I've learned with everyone, because it's not one extreme diet. It's not one medication, one simple thing. It's little steps that you can take within your daily life that make a huge difference over the long run.
Right now, you are pretty much a living success story. But tell me a little bit about how you felt prior to traditional Chinese medicine school. What was life like for you then?
Well, in response to that, I would kind of like to share the pinnacle moment that made me realize that I needed to change my life. So I was about 16 at my heaviest weight. This was my summer after junior year of high school. I was in Peru in the Andes Mountains on this volunteer trip. We were doing this very long hike, and I was doing it slowly. I was out of breath, but I was way behind the rest of the group. And so they needed to get me an emergency horse to take me along the rest of the trip. And I had never ridden a horse before, so that was terrifying. It was in a blizzard in the mountains. Even the horse was scared. And the entire experience, sitting on that horse, being frightened, it was so demoralizing. And that was just my rock bottom. And it made me realize that I can't go on living like this. Something has to change. And that was the start of my journey. It was not fun. Most of my life, from about 12 years old, I was very depressed. I had a couple of friends, but I was never very popular. And I always just felt uniquely flawed in some way. And now I don't. But it's been slow. It's not going to happen to people right away. You know, they didn't fall into these disease patterns and unhealthy living situations over a period of weeks. It's been, lifelong behavior molding.
Yes, that is something that I tell my patients. It takes time for your body and you as a person to fall into a pattern of disharmony. And so
Absolutely.
when you start this transformative process of healing, it takes time to unwind that pattern of disharmony and get you back into a state of balance.
Yes,
There's
yes.
not a quick fix to it.
No, but luckily there is an easy fix. Yeah, okay, so maybe not easy, but definitely simple. Uh, if you move your body and eat the way that you were intended to eat, and you drink lots of water, your body will naturally come back to its homeostasis. There isn't much that you have to do. Acupuncture, herbs, these will all help accelerate the process. But your body wants to heal. And once you give it the opportunity to, everything will come back into place.
So what are some of the more of the simple steps that you took personally, Olivia?
The biggest thing I would say was breaking my sugar addiction, which is not an easy thing to do. Sugar is a drug. It hijacks your dopamine receptors just like a drug does, and it makes you need it more and more. And the more you eat it, the more sluggish you get, the more depressed you get, and so the cycle continues. So to do that, uh, I just started by replacing all of the things that I was eating on a daily basis with things that didn't have sugar. So I would go to Starbucks every day and get some caramel macchiato garbage. And instead, I switched it to a cold brew with almond milk, for example. I switched out my breakfast cereals to less sugary ones, so on and so forth. Just switching, making little switches. That's what I started with.
So
And
you
definitely
do
eating
this
more
all at
protein.
once.
Um, it's over a period of many years, learning which foods that I was eating have hidden sugar in them, like like the cereals and granolas and some of the non-dairy milks. A lot of healthy foods that purport themselves to be very healthy are actually full of sugar, full of added preservatives and emulsifiers that do you more harm than good. So that's been years of trial and error, but I would like to save people that amount of time and tell them what things they can switch. So I'm very passionate about doing that. What else? I was a vegetarian, a bad vegetarian, over the course of my adolescence. So I switched to eating meat. I don't recommend that as a cure-all for everyone. It certainly worked for me because my meals were more focused on protein and vegetables, which I wasn't eating at all when I was a vegetarian. I was a carbitarian, which was, of course, making all of my symptoms worse. Yeah, dietarily, that's what I did. And I also got into weightlifting, which lowers insulin resistance, which is a huge aspect of the prediabetes and PCOS that I was experiencing. So I would recommend people to get away from the cycle of doing hours of cardio, because not only does that tire you out, it makes you need more food, and it's just not the most efficient way to tone your body, lose weight, and just improve your body composition. So eating protein and weightlifting, my biggest priorities.
That's amazing to me, just because we hear so often in the media that, okay, yeah, you should be, if you're going to be vegetarian, well then, raw foods, raw vegetables, only vegetables, don't be eating any sort of meat. And what I'm hearing from you is actually meat was helpful.
Yeah, because it's so filling. And so when you fill up on protein, you have less of an appetite for sweets. It works out like that. If people, want to be vegetarians for moral, environmental reasons, that's fine. If they do so, I do recommend that they still eat lots of vegetables and incorporate as much protein as they can. And you mentioned the raw vegetables, which is also a huge component of my Chinese medicine learning, that cooked vegetables are much easier to digest into nutrients. They're easier on the spleen, which can be traced back to the metabolism, roughly, in Western medical terms. That made a huge difference in my digestion. When you eat raw foods, it takes your body much more energy to metabolize these things. And that energy, it's all going to your stomach. You don't have any left over for your everyday activities. So you end up more fatigued. When you're more fatigued, you don't have energy to exercise or do anything other than the bare minimum to survive. Cooking foods is a huge game changer.
Isn't that something? That is so counter, I don't want to say counterintuitive, but it's counter the message that we seem to be receiving a lot in popular culture. So we're talking counterculture here. We're rebelling against something.
We certainly are. So many patients come in and tell me that they've been trying this raw vegan diet because some influencer on Instagram told them that it was the best way to lose weight, and they end up just very nutrient deficient and fatigued and pale, and one size does not fit all. I often find that people who experience the often temporary boost from the raw vegan diet, it's just because they're cutting out all of the crap that they were eating before. And so, of course, they feel better. They're eating more vegetables and more water, and less, cheese and bread and processed meats. It is an important caveat when you are eating meat that you get sustainably sourced meat, because a lot of the meat that you get in restaurants, just at the grocery store, is full of antibiotics and hormones, stuff that you just don't want in your body. And you get that added bonus of the antibiotics destroying your gut flora, just like regular antibiotics do. And that makes losing weight and feeling better a whole lot more difficult. And the research is heavily pointing to the gut-brain axis, how your gut health influences your mental health. That made such a huge difference for me, to realize that what I was eating was directly impacting how I was feeling on a daily basis. And I read recently that your gut flora is replaced every 24 hours, depending on what you're eating. So it's a direct impact. It's not even just a long-term difference. Just by changing the choices that you make today, you impact how you feel the rest of the day and tomorrow. And people know this intuitively, but the science is there.
Out of curiosity, what's your opinion on the kind of shift that's happening nowadays with the keto and paleo type diets, where folks are almost eating nothing but meat?
I think there definitely needs to be a balance. People who are on keto, it does make you lose weight very fast, but it's very hard on your system. And it's not a long-term solution, in my opinion. It does get people away from the carb and sugar addiction, which I find invaluable. But once they get that skill and how they feel after removing those things from their diet, then they can start to eat a more balanced diet. But getting rid of the refined carbohydrates and sugar, that's a good idea in my book. We don't necessarily need to eat the way cavemen did, although it is a healthy model because it's more protein, less carbs, more vegetables, and limited fruits. A lot of people overdo it on fruits. Fruits are your friend, but they're one of those friends that you can only spend about 2 hours with before they get to be a little too much. And you got to eat the whole fruit too. That's really important. A lot of people are juicing, which of course is still raw and has that metabolism aspect to it. It's so much sugar usually, unless it's green juice, which I recommend in tiny amounts to get your vitamin boost. But too much food at one time condensed into a juice or a smoothie can cause food stagnation in Chinese medicine, where the food just kind of sticks Not good for your digestive system. And when stuff is sticking in your intestines, it tends to leak out through the gut into your bloodstream. It affects your skin and your mood. You want to get things flowing. You don't want any sort of stagnation. There's a saying in Chinese medicine that if there's pain, if there's disease, there is stagnation. You want everything free flowing and all of that.
Amen to that. That's what I tell my patients is you want that circulation, just like a good, clean, clear mountain stream. You know, living here in Colorado, we're kind of familiar with that with that analogy. So it's like, okay, let's get your circulation, whether it's food, your blood, your energy, moving like a good, clean, clear mountain stream instead of just a stagnant pool of swampy water. Let's get that moving.
Yeah, I like to use the moldy sponge metaphor because everyone uses sponges in their kitchen. And when you wet a sponge, you use it and then you don't rinse it out. Kind of a good metaphor for what all of the carbohydrates and sugar and not moving, all that stagnation, and you get microbial buildup that isn't good for anybody.
That's brilliant. I really like that, Olivia. I'm going to switch this up a little bit and ask you the question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what is Foxy, and what does being Foxy mean to Olivia?
Being Foxy means walking out of your house in the morning, dressed in an outfit that you love, wearing makeup, although I know in one of your previous videos, the less makeup, the better. Makeup if it makes you feel confident. No makeup is also fine. Just feeling confident in the way that you're presenting yourself to the world. You walk out and you're prepared for whatever life throws at you, and you're confident that you can improvise if something is thrown at you that you weren't expecting. And red lipstick. Red lipstick is also Foxy.
And yours looks immaculate today.
Thank you very much.
Out of curiosity, who embodies Foxy in your world right now?
Does it have to be right now?
You know what? If you don't have anybody right this second, that is absolutely fine. But I'd be curious, in your thoughts, in your mind, in your opinion, who's Foxy?
Well, growing up, I had this role model who was my mom's best friend, who was an acupuncturist, who actually introduced me to the field of acupuncture from a very young age. She was, I say, the only person in my life who genuinely loved her job. And she would help so many people while making a living doing it. She always seemed calm. She never raised her voice or complained. She was Foxy. She was the embodiment of Foxy to me. I don't think Foxy necessarily means being overtly sexual or even aesthetically pleasing, which she was, don't get me wrong, but it's that calm demeanor that you know you're going to be good no matter what, because you have confidence in yourself. And that confidence beams outward like a light to help others. So I always aspired to be like her. Although I didn't want to become an acupuncturist, at least until college, for some reason. I thought I had to be in a more sophisticated field like psychology. But then I realized that acupuncture, herbal medicine, Chinese medicine as a whole actually takes psychology into account as one of its tools. It's all of my favorite disciplines rolled into one, which makes me very confident, feeling very Foxy that it's what I'm meant to do with my life and spread it to other people.
That's fantastic. What are some of the most common questions you get about your work?
How does it work? Does it hurt? How could you possibly have gotten into this? Which one would you like me to go into?
Well, when it comes to helping women lose weight, be more confident in their own bodies, lift themselves out of that depressive state, where does acupuncture fit into that mix?
In addition to what I know about acupuncture balancing out the body and treating the body from the inside out, if you have a healthy, balanced, beautiful inside, it's going to show on your face and in your eyes. Just the act of getting acupuncture is so relaxing. I find it to be a forced meditation, if you will. When people come in regularly, they just have this brightness in their eyes. They get this clarity that people don't get an opportunity, especially, parents, working people. They don't get an opportunity to just sit quietly with themselves and take account of what they're feeling, what they want for their lives. So I find that very restorative. That's a huge impact in the way that acupuncture works for people. It also clears up the internal imbalances caused by lack of exercise and poor diet and stress, all of the emotional stagnation, whatever. It covers up the symptoms by treating the root. So I don't treat the symptoms, I treat the root of the person. That's always what I like to tell people. It's the main difference between Eastern and Western medicine, I feel. That when you treat this root imbalance, all of your symptoms are going to go away. It doesn't matter if you have period cramps or acne or digestive irregularity, acid reflux, which I see a lot. Acupuncture, herbs, and moving and eating the way that you're intended to will all bring your body back into balance.
You say herbs. How do herbs play into that as well?
Well, herbs help correct the internal imbalances, whether someone has too much heat, which could be inflammation, or too much cold, whether they have microbial overgrowth or not enough fluid in their body. These herbs have those actions of boosting up fluid or draining too much fluid, warming the body, cooling the body. All of the herbs have different properties that help them accomplish this. And many herbs are often put together into a formula because they balance each other out, improve the way that one works, reduces the harshness of some of the herbs. It can make a real difference in people's lives too when they take them for acute and both chronic symptoms.
What kind of differences have you seen in your patients?
I've had this one woman comes to mind who's doing so well that if I could just make every patient feel like her, I would be such a happy puncturist. Happy puncturist? Nah. She came in just very overworked, very stressed. She's a kindergarten teacher. She doesn't have a lot of time for herself. And through my advice, through the herbs that she's taking, getting weekly acupuncture, her skin is just glowing. You can see it in her eyes. She said for the first time, I had an uneventful period, which was unheard of for her. And so many women think that, heavy periods and PMS and cramping are all normal. They're common, but they're not normal. And they don't have to be a part of your life. Just like all of these other nagging symptoms that people have. You don't have to live that way. There are solutions, and simple ones. Maybe not easy, but simple. So that woman comes to mind. I had this other woman who got daily migraines for her whole life. Now she doesn't get them anymore. That was a big one for me, because I could just imagine, the suffering that she was experiencing on a daily basis. And now she just wants to work on her digestion and stress, but the migraines are not a big deal. And just countless other patients who have, experienced reductions in pain, It warms my heart, really.
Those are game changers. I mean, flat game changers for people. When you can get somebody out of pain, when you can get somebody moving out of their depression, that changes their life. They can take that energy and put that to their business, their relationships, their family, and amazing things begin to happen when those transformations take place.
Yeah.
So you are doing big things.
Thank you. It's like parting the clouds to see the sun. And I don't consider it me doing it. I find it to be the magic of Chinese medicine and the magic of treating your body right. You're not, you know, inundating. That's the word I was looking for. Inundating it with these garbage foods that just make you sluggish and fatigued. And people use these foods and alcohol, whatever vices they have, smoking marijuana, name your vice, cigarettes, as comforts. They use these as comforts, but in fact, it actually perpetuates the cycle and then makes them need those vices more, when you could just meditate, eat right, exercise, do the basic things, take a walk. You wouldn't need these things. And over a period of maybe a week, you find that you enjoy these things so much that they replace your vices.
Generally, I ask my guests, what's the one piece of advice that you would have for listeners? But I think you just answered that question without me even having to ask it.
Oh, lovely.
So how can people find out more about you and your work, Olivia?
Well, I have a YouTube channel called Rise Above with Olivia Rose. I've got an Instagram, Olivia Rose Above, and a Facebook page, Rise Above with Olivia Rose. And every day I'm posting new content, articles from reputable sources and my opinions on them. I'll be having interviews with prominent people in the health beauty community, just like you. Pictures, testimonials from my patients, and exclusive writings, my ramblings, if you're interested.
Fantastic. Well, ladies, we will have the links to Olivia's YouTube and her Facebook on the show notes page at thegetfoxyshow.com. So please check out Olivia's work. And Olivia, we are up on time already, if you can believe that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Terry. I loved being on your show. I would love being on again if you'd have me. And I'm such a huge fan of the work that you're doing. And it is such a blessing to even listen to your podcast. You've got such gems.
Well,
I can't wait to see who you'll have on next.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I just want to thank you and honor you for doing the good work that you do here on this planet.
Thank you, Terry.